back to the political will, let's say we don't have a split government, it continues to be Republican controlled. I think this is a question for Senator Schultz. What do you find to be the most compelling argument among Republicans, given that AB 44 and SB 13 would essentially dilute their power?
Well, when Tim Cullen and I were in the legislature and introduced the original bill to adopt the Iowa model, you know, we're a couple of practical, seasoned politicians who understood that most majorities don't willingly give away their power. So what we proposed was that our Iowa reform model would take place in the next redistricting cycle. And we thought that was a reasonable, thoughtful approach that was respectful of a majority that was hard won. It was so dangerous, that idea, that we weren't even allowed to have a public hearing, and that's sad. The only real answer to this is public will. As long as people can wander around and say, well, nobody really cares about this, they can get away with it. But every week, more and more local units of government are stepping forward, passing resolutions, because they hear the citizenry. As more and more legislators and politicians are contacted personally by letter or email or what have you, they will get the message. When it becomes popular, trust me, they'll be beating a path to get in front of the parade to help pass it. But until that time, we have to continue to educate and advocate on behalf of change. And I just want to point something out to you. You know, this isn't a Democratic plot. You know, the Iowa model was passed by a Republican governor, Robert Ray, and 2 Republican-controlled houses of the Iowa legislature. And in 40 years, nobody in either political party has ever had the courage to put in a bill to change it, because the people love it and they know the system is fair. And I would submit to you, in Iowa, there's much greater satisfaction and confidence in government than there is in the state of Wisconsin. As a loyal Badger, that bothers me to no end.
Let me say one other thing. I think the thing about local, you know, we have a campaign going, Citizen Action and Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, and others are fighting for these county resolutions. I think I mentioned them earlier. And those are passing in Trump counties, right? Those are passing with very conservative local legislators saying we want the political system to work again so that government is responsive to us. We have a plaintiff, Wendy Sue Johnson, who talks a lot about how in the Eau Claire area, she used to be on the school board in Eau Claire, for decades, party members, Republicans and Democrats, would come together, school board members, legislators, and they'd work together on a quarterly basis to talk about what's happening in the legislature, what's happening in the schools. And after gerrymandering was put into effect, the Republican legislators around Eau Claire suddenly thought, well, we don't need to come to these anymore because our seats are safe and we don't need to engage anymore. And it's changed the character of how people engage. And so even Republicans locally in Eau Claire are like, we don't like that this system has changed, that we used to have these conversations and this cooperation. And the last thing I'll say is our national partners, the Campaign Legal Center, is taking the lead on arguing the case at the court, help tremendously at the trial, help organize the case. And our partners in the National Fair Maps Coalition, of which Fair Elections Project is a participant, released a poll this week. There was a bipartisan poll with a Democratic pollster and a Republican pollster that showed that this issue is now becoming resonant to voters. It's something that Republican, Independent, and Democratic voters all care about, but huge majorities agree that we need to end gerrymandering, that we need to end map rigging, that we need to make the process independent. The politicians shouldn't be drawing their own maps. And that's because of energy, right? That's because of citizen energy. We think the case catalyzed that, right? And the fight for the bills and the county resolutions are catalyzing that. And we're filling rooms, right? We had a room in Wauwatosa a few weeks, or at the end of the spring. We had 175 people. The fire marshal said we couldn't let any more people in the room to talk about gerrymandering in a town hall. It's an astonishing development, right? There are thousands of people who've watched our live streams, you know, from this town hall and from the town hall in Green Bay and Appleton, places all over the state. So we're building that energy. We have an incumbent Republican Congressman, Mike Gallagher, who's spoken up and said this has got to change. We've got, you know, a guy who's likely to run for president again, John Kasich, as a Republican, probably going to challenge Trump, who's talking about how this has to change. So there is an increasing amount of energy in the Republican Party, and I think that can be combined with the citizen energy to make a difference. So I hope that answers.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, John McCain, Senator Blake. There are a lot of Republicans who don't don't see this as a partisan issue and really care about this country. And I think it's important that we remind people that even though the vehicle here is one gerrymander in the country, the goal here is to make it fair for everyone, regardless of their beliefs across the country.
So we're going to take a few more questions. If you need to make your escape, please feel free. Don't forget to fill out your card and turn it in. And we'll take 3 or 4 more questions, and then we'll stick around and have a little bit more. Yes.